And welcome to Bond Never Dies. I am your agent, Jeremy Evans, along with Travis Hanna. And this is actually a special recording. We're actually coming out of our office to talk about this, basically, because most of our episodes are pre-recorded, and we kind of re-record for the whole series. But sadly, something happened. And here on Bond Never Dies, this is a show we talk about, James Bond, all his James Bond movies, but one thing in common, like Bond really never dies. Like, no matter what the situation is, he never dies. Well, sadly enough, Bond never dies, but the actor that played him died. And that is Mr. Roger Moore, or Sir Roger Moore.
Sir Roger Moore.
And the actual first Bond actor to die.
Yeah, he beat Sean Connery.
Yeah, and I was telling my parents that. I was like, wow, like, Sean Connery can just live forever, apparently. And so, but he actually sadly died this year. He passed away early this year at the age of 89 after battling with cancer.
Which is still pretty impressive.
Yeah. And so, he started his movies around, let me see here. 1973, and then his last film, View to a Kill, was 1985. So he got around like 7 films. So he got the longest one. He got just one more extra than Sean Connery, if you're not counting Never Say Never. And then of course, he got replaced by Timothy Dalton and all that fun jazz. And
Who had the shortest run.
He did. It's crazy. And so we wanted to kind of dedicate an episode to him, but we're not going to go into like a giant history, where he's from and all of this stuff. We really wanted to strictly deal with like his life as Bond and what he has done with Bond. So before we get into some fun facts about him and open up for discussion, I would like to just sit for a minute and talk about just some things that we liked about him as James Bond. Now, if you are listening to this episode, you can always go to our part 2. It's one of our early series where we've gone through all the Roger Moores, so you can always go and listen to those where we go through all of them and just kind of narrate what all they did and all this stuff and discuss and all that stuff. So, Travis, we'll start with you. During your journey with Roger Moore, revisiting these movies, is there anything that you did enjoy about him that really stand out to you?
Yeah, he used to be my least favorite Bond.
Okay.
And then after rewatching his stuff, his stuff was just goofy.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he uses the magnet in his watch to unzip that girl's dress.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that was, I mean, how do you take Bond serious when he's doing stuff like that?
Right. What made him stand out to me was, I think that his age was a little different at the time, because when you went from Sean Connery to Roger Moore did look a little bit older than Sean Connery, so that was one thing that definitely stand out. What else stand out to him for me too was he actually did his character did a lot of stunts than Sean Connery's character did. You know what I mean? Like he did a lot of stuff, and I think he had the dealing of the craziest gadgets. He was the one that got the most experimental stuff, like the experimental gadgets, experimental villains, Bond girls, and just the crazy stuff. And I give him credit for doing stuff that normally no Bond would do, like Octopus dressing up like a clown. Just never thought we would ever see James Bond dressed like a clown. I never thought we would see James Bond blow up a guy like a balloon and like in Let Her Let Die. You know what I mean? I never thought that Bond would ever, do a giant boat scene or,
He did have a bunch of those.
He did.
And that one sheriff.
Yeah. You know what I mean.
I'm surprised he wasn't on the moon with lasers.
Mm-hmm. But, apparently he was still lovable by a lot of people. I mean, that's why he had like the longest series. So he was doing something that definitely made him stand out from the rest.
He was definitely, I think, more suave.
You think he was more suave than Sean Connery?
Like Sean Connery was like the cool guy,
mm-hmm.
And Roger Moore was more of the primed and polished.
I'll give you that. I think he did influence Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig when it came to being like the more smooth,
classy. I guess.
Yeah. I think that he did do a giant influence of that. And so, but with that, let's go ahead and just get to the like some of the fun facts about him and just open up, a fun conversation about all this stuff. So, Roger Moore, starting out, for people that didn't know, he was originally wanted to be an artist. So George Roger Moore was, of course, he was born in 1927. Even though I said we're not going to talk about where he's from and all this stuff, but he wanted to be in show's business and everything like that. So he ended up getting on a TV show called The Governess or something like that. And then from there, he had his breakout role in a show called The Saint in 1953. And then he was offered to replace Sean Connery as James Bond. And once the audience got used to the change of style from Connery's portrayal, they accept Roger Moore and Live or Let Die in 1973. His first Bond movie grossed more outside of America than Diamonds Are Forever in 1971. Connery's last outing as James Bond, he went to go star in another 6 Bond films, including Spy Who Loved Me and For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, and A View to a Kill. So the fact that his premiere did better than Diamonds Are Forever, and which, granted, that was Sean Connery's last leg. And so having a new Bond, I think it worked out for him because these are people that didn't go see Sean Connery can go see a new Bond. That's their first Bond. Kind of like to us is Pierce Brosnan. That was our first Bond. That's the first Bond I ever watched. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, next one is Roger Moore is a towel thief. So during the early stage of his career, Roger collected towels from the hotels he stayed in. However, he stopped when a British newspaper printed a story entitled "Roger Moore is a Towel Thief." He reveals on So Graham Norton 1998 that he still has the collection of in his Swiss home. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So with that, while he was on the James Bond, while he was James Bond, he had unlimited supplies of cigars. So his
contract.
Yeah, his contract of the 007 films provided him with unlimited supplies of Monte Cristo cigars during filming. The bill for this typical ran to thousands of pounds. So that makes sense because most of his, I want to say, did he smoke a cigar almost in every film? Do you remember him smoking almost a cigar? I thought he stopped about after A Spy Who Loved Me, I want to say.
I would have to go back and watch, but I do remember he did have cigars because we commented on it.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever? Now you're a cigar
aficionado.
Yeah. So have you ever had a Monte Cristo
yeah,
cigars?
They have so many different kinds of there's a bunch. There's like a handful of top distributors, like people who actually roll the cigars.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that, and a lot of these companies contract with them to make special blends for their companies. Some companies have branched out and started doing it on their own, but smaller companies who can't afford an operation like that, they basically just put in an order with a blend. And another company rolls them. But Monte Cristo is one of the bigger names up there with Arturo Fuente, and Cohiba. In fact, I'm trying to think here. Sylvester Stallone likes Arturo Fuente cigars.
Would you say that's the thing he smoked in Expendables?
I believe it is. Opus X.
Okay.
And then Arnold Schwarzenegger likes Monte Cristos.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I might be getting that wrong. It's either Monte Cristo or Romeo and Julieta's.
Okay.
But I want to say Monte Cristo.
Okay. So Moore suffered from hoplophobia. Mm-hmm. Every scene that shows Roger Moore running his 7 Bond films was performed by a body double. Moore thought he looked awkward when running, despite handling and being around many firearms on set. Moore suffered from that fear of firearms, which dated back to a childhood accident where he was shot in the leg with an air rifle by his brother. So that makes a lot of sense because like a lot of the Bond films, he does run and a lot of stuff. So it's interesting to know that his body double did most of that stuff, and they actually did pretty well disguising it on certain parts. I want to say like what was the movie? I think it was Moonraker on the skydiving scene. Like I can tell that was a stunt double for that per se, even though it's not running, but you can tell certain scenes. Like, does that surprise you, Travis, that he had a body double do all his running scenes?
I don't, because he already felt like he was too old.
Okay, we'll get to that soon.
To play Bond.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
And so, it just makes sense.
Okay.
Like, if he doesn't like the way he looks running, and he feels old,
right?
Like, imagine your dad running.
Yeah. He was the first Bond to get help from computer modeling. So, the movie The Man with the Golden Gun, that's the second movie, the corkscrew car jumps over the canal, was performed in one take and was captured by 8 cameras. It was the first stunt ever to be calculated by computer modeling. So, if you guys can't imagine, it pulls like a Duke of Hazzard kind of scene, and you actually hear the whoop, like the little sound effects when he flips the car. Do you know what I'm talking about, Travis?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be kind of like a goofy thing like that. And the car just goes up down real quick. It was actually pretty impressive at that time. And so, but it seems like also kind of unnecessary. Like like you didn't need that scene, but I guess they thought it was cool at the time. And so that's just my opinion. What do you think?
Oh,
like the car scene. Do you think that was impressive at the time? You thought it was kind of unnecessary?
Sure, it's impressive at the time.
Okay.
I mean, nobody's really using computers. I mean, computers, like, they were used in movies periodically in the late 80s, early 90s. Most of it was blue screen, which eventually turned into green screen.
Mm-hmm.
But really, man, until Jurassic Park, which was like 91, 92, like, everyone, like, nobody could really fathom what a computer could do for a movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest Bond. So he was the oldest Bond to debut as James Bond. He was at the age of 45 when he did Live or Let Die in 1973. This makes him 15 years older than the youngest actor to portray James Bond, Jordan Lazenby, age 30.
Oh, wow.
Who starred in one of the Bond movies in 1969, Her Majesty's Secret Service. So, yeah, I think that's what a lot of people noticed. Like, when you went to Sean Connery, it was a huge difference. It was a huge difference. And, watching his movies, it was tough for me to take him seriously when he was in fighting scenes. Because I was like, I don't know. I think he can't throw a punch,
Right. No, we talked about that.
He was definitely a lover, not a fighter in that aspect. And so, but for him, for the age through all that movie, do you think he did a pretty good job for what he did for his age overall? Do you think it was more like maybe he should have been cast a little bit younger when he was a little younger?
Well, like I said, rewatching them has completely changed my opinion of him. So I'm going to say yes. I think, I don't think his age affected his ability to play Bond.
Okay.
I think with movie magic, you can make anybody look like they're badass.
Mm-hmm.
But, as long as you get into the storytelling,
right,
and Bond is still high up on, or, he retains his status as Bond, then I don't think it really matters.
Okay.
I mean, unless he's, like, obviously older,
Yeah.
No,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't
you
kind
of, it's funny because View to a Kill, like, I feel like that Octopussy, the movie, felt like, okay, this is his last leg. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until View to a Kill that you really saw, like, yeah, this has to be your last movie. This has to be your last movie. Yeah, so even though, like, I take View to a Kill over Octopussy. So, despite playing James Bond in 7 Bond films, he has never ordered a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. That's nuts, because I just realized that. Like, he never did. I guess he really wanted, I don't know if it was the studio's idea or him, that maybe they wanted to make this Bond different from the Sean Connery Bond, which it goes into your theory of Bond is more of a code name. I mean, 007 is a code name, or James Bond is a code name.
Yeah, but they've kind of blown that out of the water in every iteration, because they keep bringing up the Lazenby, with his wife dying, so I can't, I can't go with that theory anymore.
Right. Roger Moore maintains a very good friendship with his fellow Bond actors Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Timothy Dalton, and Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig. In fact, when Octopussy was being filmed at Pinwood in close proximity to where Never Say Never Again started production at the Elstree studio, Moore and Connery met for dinner in their free time. So it makes me wonder, like, do you think Roger Moore talked to Sean Connery, like, some ideas that he to make the Bond better, even though they were at that time competing per se?
Well, I don't know. I think it's like, when you see the presidents get together, like how many people have been president in the United States?
Right.
Right. So there's stuff that you can only tell each other,
Mm.
And then even then, current presidents probably can't even tell past presidents, right? Mm-hmm. But there are only things that handful of guys are going to know.
Okay.
Right? So I imagine it's the same way with Bond. Any actor who has played Bond, like, that brings them together, and they just share stories about playing Bond and which one is better. And I just had this, like, with you bringing up Lazenby as part of the Hangout. Kevin Hart had a show called Real Hollywood Husbands or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a spoof of Hollywood Wives.
Uh-huh.
And Nick Cannon was like the punching bag.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really have money. He had Mariah Carey's money.
Yeah.
And so I just picture George Lazenby as like the punching bag. Like, yeah, you were Bond once.
Right. He was definitely the Ringo of the of the Bond group. So when asked who his favorite Bond actor were, he replied, "I think that Sean Connery was obviously the great Bond," end quote. And then he quote again, "He was obviously the right person. He brought the right personality to the performance. Otherwise, Bond would not have gone as past the first 6 that he did." He also said he was a tremendous Bond. But he also praised Daniel Craig's modern interpretation of James Bond. He said, in quote, "Today, I think we're lucky to have Daniel Craig because he's quite extraordinary. I always say that Sean looks like a killer, but Daniel Craig would finish it off." And so I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm a big fan of Daniel Craig as Bond. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty excited that he's coming back. I just don't like the storytelling of... I don't like...
You don't like what they're doing with him
of his movies.
Okay, so you don't like really what the materials are doing with him.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I wish it was more... I don't know. A little more fantastical.
Okay.
But a little more realistic, because I feel like when they brought him in, that's what they were trying to go for, and then it became too real.
So let me ask you this:
there's like no fun in the.
So do you wish that Daniel Craig had the style of Sean Connery style and Roger Moore style combined together, starring Daniel Craig? So like he's still the badass, but we're still getting like the lovable kind of crazy kind of villains and crazy stuff like that.
Not even that, but just like the gadgets.
Okay.
I mean, a defibrillator, really.
Right. Yeah.
Like we have super badass cars now. Like, let's recreate the DB5 instead of getting another DB5. Right?
Yeah.
Let's make this generation happy to have a Bond, and make the older generation a little jealous.
Okay, I can understand.
Right?
That makes sense. Yeah. He had a favorite Bond experience. So Moore says his most enjoyable Bond experience came in The Spy Who Loved Me. I'm memorable for the cast of villains and gadgets, including a Lotus E-Spirit sports car, which doubled as a submarine. He says, in quote, "I think The Spy Who Loved Me was the best, or rather the one I enjoyed doing the most," Moore told AFP in an interview in 2007. Also, in quote, he says, "It has a great location, and I was exceedingly happy working with Louis Gilbert, the director." So I 100% agree with him. I think Spy Who Loved Me personally is my favorite out of his 7 films.
Is that the one that has the helicopter chase?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He threw everything at him.
Yeah. Yeah. And that had the coolest car. It had the fantastic theme song. I thought it was just the villain that brought into one of the most famous henchmen's, Jaws.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think I agree with him. And of course, you can tell is his favorite, and he had fun with it. You could tell in the movie he was having a great time with it. You could tell that the movie was having a great time. You can tell you were having a great time when you were watching it.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know about you. Would you put that as your favorite one out of that whole 7? Or
yeah, it just I'm a little hurt of what happened to the Lotus, because you break the window and the whole thing blows up.
Yeah.
As the security system, which I get. It's got spy technology in it. You don't
wait. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure? I thought he injected out of the car. I mean, he injected out the car and it blew up.
Well,
something like that. But either way, the car is gone.
Well, right. The car gets blown up because a henchman tries to break into it.
Okay.
And it smashes the window and it blows up.
Okay. Well, most every car in Bond movies end up disaster anyways.
But I don't care about the BMWs and I don't care about the
right.
None of them
the Aston Martin.
None of them turned into submarines.
Right. That's where I think that Bond belongs. It needs to have like, show me something I haven't seen before, like a submarine car. Like that's awesome.
Right.
Let's see more of that. Give us something else like that. I feel like that the other Bond films after that didn't go further than that with the cars.
And I'm even okay with non-existing vehicles. So like in Batman Begins and that whole series, the Tumbler was not a legitimate car. They made that for the movie.
So you wish they just made up Bond cars?
Dude,
yeah, that would have been awesome.
Could you imagine like James Bond on some kind of crazy Aston Martin motorcycle or some kind of crazy jet ski or
not just kind of like exclusive
not
cars.
Just a tiny boat, but something,
Yeah, that feels like exclusive to the Bond movie. Like no other movie has this car.
Like when Batman, when the tumbler breaks and he turns it into a fucking motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then like that motorcycle was so hard that only one person knew how to actually drive it.
Yeah.
On set, like it was cool.
Right.
Right.
Right. That would definitely stand out a little bit more because Bond should be that character that has the stuff that no other agent or no one else has.
Well, I mean, MI6 should be given stuff that nobody else has.
That's exactly right.
And making it look like it's a production,
Yeah. So Moore was good friends with Lois Maxwell, who played Miss Moneypenny in the James Bond movies. They first met in mid 1940s at a Royal Academy at a dramatic Academy of Dramatic Arts, where they were in the same class in 1944. So that's crazy. That's crazy. They were in acting class and then they end up doing something together in that. Now, for people that don't know, Moneypenny was there during the Sean Connery time too. So her merging into the next one and going with Roger Moore, that's
and she eventually changed, right?
Yeah,
like
she changed
midway through.
Yeah,
the
midway
Roger
through.
Moore
Yes,
series.
yes. So, but at least like they got to they were in a movie together at one point. So that's still pretty cool. Let's see here. Best Bond. So voters in the 2004 Academy Award poll awards, Moore was titled the best Bond. So just a fun fact in 2004. So that could have changed, but it was interesting that like at that time that people consider him the best one. His daughter was also an actress. So just to make short of it, he has a daughter named Deborah, and she was actually starred in Die Another Day. She was a flight attendant in that movie. Yeah. So if you go back and watch it, that's her. Yeah. So, and then some of the fun stuff is he was knighted by the Queen. At the age of 75, Moore was knighted by so that was really cool. And then right here is something that he always been saying. He felt he was too old to play as Bond, so Roger Moore officially announced his retirement from playing James Bond on December 3rd, 1985, as he was agreed by all involved in the franchise that Moore has gotten too old for the role. By that point, Moore himself was quoted as saying that he felt embarrassed to be seen performing love scenes with a beautiful actress who were young enough to be his daughter. So I can understand that. I completely understand that. And then, of course, he has the longest running Bond. Roger Moore rode and drove in a motor-powered boat in every James Bond movie he appeared in. Yep. That is crazy. And I believe no other Bond and no other Bond will have the longest boat scene as he did in The Man with the Golden Gun. Yeah. So that's crazy. Well, I don't know. Like, why was the boat such a big thing in the 70s, going a little bit in the 80s for him? I don't know why they were fascinated by boats so much.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, maybe they were just like, we're going to be in this location. What would be more interesting than a car chase? we've done a bunch of car chases. Let's do boats.
Yeah.
Let's and I mean, some of the chases were impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when we were, talking about the different missions that were like, and there's another boat chase.
Yep. Yeah. So Moore never drove the most famous of all James Bond's cars in the Bond films or any other Aston Martin model. The DB5 was made famous by Sean Connery, James Bond movies Goldfinger and then Thunderball. However, Moore, who played James Bond 7 times, only have ever been seen on a screen with this makes one. Hang on, sorry, let me say that again. Has only ever been seen on screen with this makes once, and that was the Cannonball Run in 1981, where it was a self-parody of the James Bond persona.
Right.
So, yeah. So, basically, those are all the fun facts about Roger Moore and all this stuff. It makes me wonder, what all the fun facts of other Bonds and their set, and who had the most, craziest and ridiculous things that they had to do. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe we can talk about that when we wrap up.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Yeah, but cut this episode short. We just wanted to dedicate to Roger Moore. For good or worse for the films, Roger Moore still came in. He did the longest running Bond. He still came in there and did his job. He did his business. I thought overall he still did a great job of what he has done for it. You know what I mean? And I think that he will be missed, and he will never be forgotten because he is the only Bond that had the most standout ones. Regardless if you don't like him, some of his films, the movies still stand out in some way because his movies does stuff that no Bond has ever done, and it was very gadget and very villain oriented to him. You know what I mean?
And he, his role span over a decade.
Yeah.
From 73 to 85 is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So for everybody out there, if you're a James Bond fan, pop a Roger Moore film in and just watch one. Spy Who Loved Me, View to a Kill, Octopussy, You Only Live Twice, Live or Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun, Moonraker. Pop one in and just kind of enjoy a Bond film. Do it for us. Just sit back. I might pop one. Just watch one. I might do Spy Who Loved Me because that's my favorite one. And other than that, but remember, we are a podcast show, and we are now in the Pierce Brosnan era. So definitely continue watching with us. We have now gone through GoldenEye. So definitely join us on that. And if you enjoy any of Bond films, we recommend you listen to the show as part of the In-Game Boss program, a network of gaming and other variety shows. And we have James Bond's out of the loop. We've gone through the Sean Connery, we have gone through the Roger Moores, we have gone through the Timothy Dalton, and we still have more to go. So, Travis, anything you want to add before we wrap this up?
Nothing at all.
Okay. So with that, thank you so much for taking time to listen to us, and we will catch you as we continue the Bond era.
Ba-da, ba-da.